I apologize in advance for the people that are coming in that have had some challenges with the link not being posted. What we would like to do is go ahead and approve minutes first, now that we have quorum here. Andrew, would you be willing to, for this meeting, do roll call for us again?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Coming back to the minutes, which are dated from our meeting on October 25th. Do we have any anyone that would like to make any amendments, edits, comments? If not, if we have someone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 25th.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from October 25th, 2022.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Carl.
Roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, passes. Before we get to administrative discussions, is there anything that we'd like to add? I know, Amy, you had mentioned 49 Mattawanakie Trail.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Barr, you are here. We have a really full agenda, but we understand you have a situation at hand. So if you want to just kind of quickly tell the commissioners what's going on. You currently have an order of conditions, and I understand there's a tree issue.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I can wait till the end of the meeting if you'd rather.
Well, if you want to just tell the commission
Okay, yep, sure.
what the challenge is.
Yeah, so several years ago we had a tree that was at risk and it fell. We had approval to remove it. It fell before it could be removed. We got approval to take the tree out after it had fallen, and we did that. Except for the stump. And now we have an open order of conditions for the renovation of our house and doing some landscaping and hardscaping associated with the renovation. The housework is done, the hardscaping and landscaping are still underway, and we have the contractor has a backhoe on site that could be used to remove the stump now that the lake has receded because of the drawdown. So our request was whether we'd be able to use the backhoe to remove the stump while the lake is down and get it out of there. The shoreline on either side of the stump has stone riprap, both on our side, and Mark Hoffman at 45 Mattawanakie has just put in riprap on his side also. In both cases, we needed to put it in because the shoreline was deeply undercut, and this was to stabilize the shoreline. If we were allowed to take out the stump, we would also put stone riprap in the area where the stump is now to stabilize the shoreline underneath that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barr. So the commission is poised with, if they'd like to hear this, a couple of the options would be amended or a red line change. Amy has not been out on site, nor have we. Mr. Barr, you don't happen to have any photos, do you? Commissioners, what are your thoughts with this? So do we wish to hear this? Is this something that you wish to amend? Okay. My only concern is ripping all the roots out if there's a way to cut into the roots so that we're not pulling the whole shoreline up with it.
Right, yeah, we could cut those out. Like I said, here, just a minute, let me show you this. Here's the shoreline on one side, our side. You can see the riprap along it, all the way up to the stump. And then from Mark Hoffman's side, it also has riprap all the way up. So we would...
So you would just carry on?
Yeah, I would just continue through this where the stump is all on our lot, and so we would be responsible for putting restoring that with riprap, yeah, so that there wouldn't be any any further erosion there.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts on this? Whether you'd like to make an amendment we would have to repost, I believe, or red line on this. Is that correct, Amy? If we did a red line, it wouldn't have to be reposted. He could do the work now.
Exactly. If it's a red line, you can do it under the open order conditions. But if you want an amended order conditions or new RDA, that would be a whole new process.
Right.
Either way.
And basically, we would just be asking him to rip-wrap it, probably. Commissioners, any thoughts?
I think we should just allow it to be done.
Okay.
I
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Amy, do you need a motion for that or just a suggestion?
Nope, I would need a motion and a vote, and you might want to condition it that I go out there and look at it with them before they start.
Yep, for sure. I would make a motion that Amy go, if we set to approve this, that if Amy could go out in the next, say, 48 hours, Amy, are you in the office the next couple days?
I am not leaving the office tomorrow because the weather's supposed to be abysmal, but I will be in Thursday,
Okay.
and I can do it Friday too.
Okay. So I would ask that I would offer a red line change to this. That would be my motion with the caveat that Amy has to see it before they harvest it.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Sorry for the late request. Thanks for considering me.
Yes, thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a peek down at administrative discussions. 100 Great Road Enforcement Order.
I believe the owner is here and he wanted to discuss with you about the condition. This was the enforcement order that was put on there for the sort of parking lot over at Bonsai West, which had the condition of putting boulders between the edge of the parking lot and the wetlands. And he wanted to discuss not putting in the boulders. And I know he was having a little trouble with Zoom, so
Hands up. Okay. Feel free to speak, or Amy, do you have to tick him?
he's not muted.
Is that Michael? Michael, feel free to speak. Michael, you're on mute. There you go. Michael, you may have an issue with your audio, but you are unmuted and we're not hearing you. So let's come back to this in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and move forward with Light and Water Department Cobb's CR update.
Since neither Kyle or Chase are here, we all met 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, for a little over an hour to go through the CR and answer a lot of questions and go through options. And we'll be meeting again. I think it's December 5th. If anyone wants to be in on that, let me know. Up to 3, I can just write on the notice that the Water Department puts out. If it's going to be more than 3, I just need to do our own notice.
Okay. All right. So we'll carry on and look for an update at after the December 5th meeting. Moving on, request for certificate of compliance 11 Lincoln, Mass DEP 204-0965.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to look at my emails to make sure I'm not missing somebody here. 11 Lincoln, that was the swimming pool that he wanted to put in. He got his order conditions, he recorded it, it was done, it's finished, it's stabilized, there was hardly any disturbance or extra disturbance beyond the lawn. Some of the utilities actually got pulled further out of the buffer zone, so I believe it is ready to go for a certificate of compliance.
Okay. Do we have someone that would like to make a motion?
I'll move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 11 Lincoln Drive, Mass DEP file number 204-0965.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
All right, roll
Thank you.
call.
Roll.
Sarah,
Sarah Seaward, aye.
Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. Request for certificate of compliance 5 Vint, Mass DEP 204-0839.
This is one of the houses over at Cooper Farm. And when Tim and I went out to look at it, he had built some steps down the wall, the steep area behind his house with no approval and no building permit. So I'm circling back with him.
Okay. So we will
It's
table
not, it's
that.
not ready.
Okay. Following that is OSRP representative.
Yep. You need to nominate somebody for that committee, one person. And this is for the 2023 OSRP, which is when it's due. It would be 7 people, including Conscom, 1 planning, 1 park commission, 1 ag committee, 1 light and water commission member, and 1 somebody from the Clean Lakes, and a citizen at large.
When is their first meeting or when is their appointments?
Well, this email actually went out October 26th, but it didn't come to me. So the select board needs to appoint the committee, and then they would start meeting. And there will be a consultant, so that might help you a little bit.
Okay.
In terms of how much of a heavy lift this might be.
Right. Is there anyone that is so inclined to put their name forward for that at this time? Okay, Amy, can you table that? We'll come back to it when we have other commissioners here on the call. So on the next one.
Okay, just don't forget to do it.
Yeah, we'll just add that. Okay, Bendick Matt, update.
That is basically to update you that you're about to get an update. I thought it might be ready tonight, but it's not.
Okay.
So Dave
Cool.
Barr will be back and bring that in with him.
Yep, that'll be interesting. Okay. Eagle Scout expenses.
Yep, we had talked about this a little before, and the Conscom seemed to be willing to pay some of their expenses, although it turns out we can't just donate the money. Everybody except Neil has been able to cover their expenses with donations, but Neil's was the I forget how long the boardwalk at Williams, so it was pretty expensive. And he was wondering if the commission, I can work it out with Littleton Lumber that I would end up paying one of the invoices to Littleton Lumber, which works out. So we're providing the supplies.
And have we done this? Have we done this before?
Some of the other stuff, we didn't necessarily specifically buy lumber and supplies for, but we had stuff left over from other boardwalks that we did donate.
And meaning that have we made expenditures for Eagle Scouts in the past?
Yes. Not very
Yeah.
frequently, but yes.
Okay. I guess going forward as part of the project, I would like to know what Neil has done for his outreach before we go ahead and pay for that, because that's really part of their project to do that. But
Yes, and especially because the other boardwalks were able to fund.
right.
But it also depends a lot of times on how much of your family you're going to hit up.
Yep.
So,
I would like to not close the discussion, but bring it back again and ask for, like, how many people did you actually connect with, and can you work a little harder to get it paid for?
yep.
Any commissioners have any thoughts on that?
His whole cost was, I think, a little under $2,000. And he's not asking for,
The total cost was 2,000?
was about 2,000. He's asking for a little under 700. Just so you have a number in mind.
Right. Carl, you were saying something?
No, I agree. I just was going to agree with what was said.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that. So that's barely half. Okay. Any other administrative actions? Okay. I don't see that they came back for 100 Great Road. Okay, let's go ahead, 7:49 to go ahead and open the 7:45 hearing. Notice of intent 6 Spectacle Pond Road. No DEP number, R22-9-0. And construction of 18,000 square foot building, paved parking, subsurface drainage, and septic system. Who is
Good
it?
evening, Commissioners. My name is Seth Donahoe. I'm with Dillis and Roy Civil Design Group. We are here tonight on behalf of Jeanson Builders, who are proposing construction at 6 Spectacle Pond Road, as you just mentioned. If you'd like, I can dive into a quick overview and share my screen with some of the plans, if that's all right with you.
Yes, go ahead, Seth. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully what's on your screen right now is the existing conditions for the site. So as we mentioned, this is 6 Spectacle Pond Road. It's on the westerly side of Spectacle Pond Road. It is sandwiched in between the former dump and landfill site and what most of us know as the Stone Yard, which is an industrial manufacturing facility. And across the street from us is the substantially large aggregate pit, which actually has frontage on Spectacle Pond Road. And then most of us see its main entrances headed over towards New Estate Road. So this is a 3.15 acre site. It is presently utilized for material storage and material processing. And what I have on my screen is the existing conditions. The light brown area is the extent of the working area of the site. It's essentially a level gravel pad where all sorts of machinery and trucks can pull in. They can utilize miscellaneous storage bins, which are on the site. And then there's some improvised outbuildings that provide many of the essential functions of office and any type of shelter that they need while they're on the site. Most of what's on the site is improvised. There's essentially zero stormwater management on the site. It does slope very gradually to a very large riprap embankment, which is what I would call the rear of the site. And at the toe of that slope is a bordering vegetated wetland. It's very well defined. The embankment is anywhere from 6 feet tall to in excess of 15 feet tall in some sections. What we are proposing at this site is a building, and that is primarily an improvement to allow the housing of much of the equipment that's already being utilized at the site. And coupled with that building is a mass DEP stormwater system, and that is compliant with both the town and state regulations. We have completed, or we are about to complete the process with the planning board, and this system has been subject to peer review by Green International during that process. So as I mentioned, there's no stormwater management on the site. We will be collecting and infiltrating and treating all the stormwater management at the site, and that'll be completely infiltrated. There is no new point discharge. We're not proposing to convey anything towards the wetlands. We'll be utilizing the existing altered area of the site to do that. The existing working area of the site, the closest point to the bordering vegetated wetland is 12.5 feet. And that is in this vicinity right here. What we're proposing to improve on existing conditions is to provide a vegetated berm all along the perimeter of the existing working area. So that'll provide both a visual break, and so that equipment cannot get any closer to the wetlands. It'll also increase our offset of the working area. We'll be going up to 43.5 feet. So an improvement over 12.5 feet from the existing working area on the site. There will be an erosion control barrier installed prior to all the work, and that is what this bold line is. So while it is a relatively flat site, we'll be making sure that nothing can get over the embankment that already exists. Portions of our work are within the 50-foot buffer zone, and that portion of the work is limited to the improvements, the restoration of a portion of that 50-foot buffer zone. So that is only for the berm. We only have a very small corner of our proposed building within the buffer zone. It's approximately 292 square feet. And we're also increasing the distance between the existing structures on the site and the proposed. So the existing structures will be completely removed. They are presently at about 88 feet from the wetlands. Our new building will be 89 feet from the wetlands. So in keeping with the policies within your regulations, we will be not increasing the degree of nonconformance of the site across the board through providing weather-tight storage for equipment, incorporating stormwater management on the site, and then increasing our offsets to the wetlands. I think we'll be improving things dramatically here. So that was what we're planning in a nutshell. I will be happy to answer any questions the commission may have at this time.
Seth, what are we going to do with roof runoff containment?
So everything is being conveyed to the infiltration area. And that is with this area here. These are actually concrete galleys. They'll be collected in a deep sump catch basin. And there's a small trench grate at this entrance to the site to catch a very small area of impervious. But that'll all be conveyed into the infiltration area and infiltrated within the existing disturbed area of the site.
And is there any work proposed in terms of vehicular maintenance or fueling or anything proposed for the structures?
Anything that, well, there is quite a bit of work that does occur on the site right now, and that is the purpose of the building, to allow an internal area for any work that needs to be done. This is primarily designed to be a contractor base, so something like a plumber would use, an electrician would use. So we're not servicing heavy equipment at this site, if that's your concern.
So this is a different use than what's currently going on there.
No, it is the same use. They just don't have a proper building at the site for it.
No, but you said the contract, the building could be.
Yeah,
right.
No, there aren't like electrical contractors and plumbers in that. Isn't it primarily storage of?
It's storage and processing of yard material, and
Right.
some equipment from other trades does
when you
utilize
want
the
to
site.
speak.
But you're correct. The internal space of the building would be different than what.
Right, yeah, Carl's correct.
All right, thanks. And the other question I have, you said something about the area disturbance was 6 feet away from the wetlands or something. There was the first thing you said.
So the existing limit of the what I would call the work area, it's essentially a gravel pad, a giant gravel pad. That's 12.5 feet from the wetlands. And we're going to be installing an earthen berm that's going to be vegetated, and that'll provide an offset of 43.5 feet between the wetlands and the new limit of the working area. So we'll be increasing the offset to the BVW quite a bit.
So is the work, I don't think I understand it completely. Is it work on top of the existing berm? Where is this 12 foot?
So presently, this entire light brown shaded area is utilized for material storage and material processing. And so we're going to remove that, where this is the 12.5 foot distance right by flag A3, where my cursor is.
Right, and that's an area of concern for sure, to try and clean that up, because we've been on site where that soil has left and gone down the bank before.
Yeah, and that is, there's two components to that. One, there's no stormwater management on the site right now. There's very little dedicated parking. It's essentially a free-for-all. So we'll be remedying that. Well, that's really more the purview of the planning board, which we're working with on that. We'll be collecting the stormwater, infiltrating it, and then the berm is secondary to provide a permanent separation and make sure that everything is diverted to those mitigation measures.
So just what is the work on that 12-foot area? What's going to happen there?
It's going to be restored.
Restored. So they'll removed?
Oh, no, there'll be a raised berm. So there's going to be material put in place to provide a vertical separation between what's essentially a drop off that conveys directly to the wetlands right now. And that's going to increase it in round numbers. It's going to provide an additional 30-foot buffer of area.
I guess that's work within the 50 in my mind, no matter what it is.
Correct. So we requested a waiver for that, and that purpose is to restore that area.
I don't quite understand the restoring, but that's okay.
I think if you put it the other way, if we didn't do it, there would essentially just be, like there is today, a parking lot and a work area there. We're taking that out of the equation.
Yeah, and I think, Seth, this site really lends itself to a site walk, for sure.
Yeah, I'd be happy to meet the commission out there. I think it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think to do that and then to have the building staked out,
Yeah,
I think would
and
be
that's-
important, because some of us have been on it and some of us have not, so.
we need that 6, we need we need the closest area staked out too, Sarah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's too confusing just being, without seeing it.
Hmm.
so as we
Andrew, you've probably been on site because of Stoneyard when we were dealing with that whole area.
Yeah, it's a very very sensitive site. We've been there many times over the years. But yeah, site walk I think would be very helpful because, like Carl was saying, I'm having trouble really trying to figure out what's going on here in relation to the current.
So would the commission like to, do we have more questions now, or we would like to go to a plan for a site walk?
Let's do a site walk before we get
Okay.
any deeper into it.
Seth, how quickly do you think you could have some of the points of disturbance and restoration staked out? It doesn't have to be 100%, but in light that we'd like to get something done before Thanksgiving.
it's essentially a completely cleared site, so it's a relatively easy ask that you're asking me to do. So I would say if you could give us, just thinking with holidays coming up here, are you intending to do it this week, or is next week more on the table?
I think it's up to the commissioners. Usually what we do, Seth, is somebody throws out a date and then we see if anybody can.
Well,
take a
let me
look
make
at
it easy. I'll beat you there and have everything staked out before you guys can get there.
Okay. Brian or Carl or Andrew, any thoughts on a day?
Let's see. Would like an early Saturday morning work for people?
I couldn't do Saturday, but I could do Monday next week.
So Monday's the 21st.
I'm away next week, but don't worry about me, as long as it's staked, and I don't mind going out. I mean, it's not, I can figure my way around that site.
Are you around on the 18th, Brian or Andrew, or like this Friday?
I can't
Or
do
do you wanna
Friday,
shoot-
sorry.
Okay.
You guys just schedule and,
Okay. Andrew, can you do Monday the 21st?
I can't in the morning or midday. It'd have to be after work, and it's dark by the time I get back now, so it's a little tricky.
Okay. Amy, are you around on the 21st?
I am around on the 21st, but I'm gone the rest of that week.
Okay.
Do you want to try for a noontime one and just, I think what Brian said he could do that? I don't know what your schedule is, Sarah.
Is Kyle usually amenable to the noontime one?
It depends on the day, but usually, yes.
Okay. Brian, do you think we should shoot for Monday in hopes that someone else can join us?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. What time do you want to say?
Noon?
Okay. Okay, Seth, so that's going to be our first target would be the 21st at noon.
Okay.
And then
And
with
if
your
anything,
Yep, with your
anything changes-
permission, we'll go ahead, and if you could bring plans too, just a
of
couple of
course,
plans,
yep.
that would be great. And then you will be continued to December 6th.
And do you have are you assigning times, or is it just a blanket 7:30
It'll just
start?
be fun when you find out.
Can't wait.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next Monday.
You don't get rid of me tonight. I'm back with you for Mattawanakee a little bit,
Okay,
but I
Great.
will
So
sign off
we-
for right now.
yeah, so we're gonna jump back real quick to, we have the hand raised.
I don't know if you can hear me. This is Michael from Bonsai West.
Yes, Michael, go ahead.
Okay, I'm computer illiterate, but I'm on my
That's
phone.
okay, we can hear you.
Okay, so it's in your court, Amy. I'm being, for the Bonsai West
Yep,
area.
so actually, Michael, if you want to express to us, so our understanding you're still under an enforcement order, and you can tell the commission what your request has been.
So the request is, I mean, we're all calling this a parking lot, and what I've done is always park there for staff during open houses and classes on the weekends. It's probably not more than 15 days a year that we park there, and it's just never more than 3 to 5 cars, and we're not going to plow it in the winter. It's not a parking lot. It's basically what it's always been, except now it's a little bit easier for us to get in there. So I think the request from your end is that I put boulders up, and it just doesn't make sense to me. If I have to go through that expense, I will, but it just seems like I just need your opinion for anybody out there to agree with me that it just doesn't seem to be a necessary thing that's being requested.
Okay, so what we'll do is, your question has been heard by the commissioners. Obviously, the commissioners or one of the commissioners made the request to do so, but is there a commissioner that would like to respond to Michael's concern under the enforcement order to place boulders?
So I do have one quick question for Michael. You had mentioned that it's a weekend parking situation. Are you planning on having people park there in the winter as well?
No parking in the winter, and it's not even a weekend. It's the side of the house that just so happens abuts the environmental area there, but it's always been there. It's our septic system is there. We can't get any trucks in there because of our septic system. And as my business has grown, when we have classes on the weekends, rather than fill our own parking lot with our own cars, we've always just pulled in there. And, I've pulled over brush, but we finally this year decided to make it nice, and we cut down the sumac and some of the other invasive plants. And I think last time Amy showed pictures of what the side of the house looked like we've actually been there 35 years. And she has pictures from the 1980s when we bought the place. And it's always just been a side of the house. I used it for my cold frames at one time. I used it for growing fields. It's always been used. And for the last 20 years, it's been abandoned because I haven't used it. And so all these trees have grown. And the reason why it's come to your attention is that I finally hired a local contractor, and he bulldozed down the plants and smoothed out the area, and now it looks nice. And so it came to your attention that I was doing something, and I was making a nice area for my staff to park on occasion, but we don't use it for the winter.
Thank you, Michael. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? So we do have a full agenda tonight, so thoughts or guidance for him?
Well, I'd have to go back and find out why we suggested the boulders in the first place.
Well, in terms of keeping the parking from going past where they were supposed to. And so we also have to think of who the next owner might be, and if that can then be considered.
Well, that's the thing, is that we have to look at it. I understand what you're saying, but like Sarah said, we need to kind of look at the big picture, and is it being used as a parking lot? Even if it's not being used all the time, it's still considered a parking lot. This car's parking there. But I'm not sure about the boulder question, which I think is your question.
Right, but we already had this hearing, and so the suggestion was made. And so he's requesting that we amend what we've asked to do.
Okay.
Because there is sorry to interrupt you, Carl, but there is a stone wall, and that is clearly the property line, and no subsequent owners would ever be able to go past that.
Okay.
So there's a stone wall currently where the boulders were proposed?
Yeah, it's an original New England fieldstone that goes across there.
So in the essence of time, what I would do is ask a commissioner if someone else would like to go out, and we can bring it back to discussion for December 6th. But I don't think that we're in a position to make that decision right now without someone being on site. Is there a commissioner that would like to go with Amy before the December 6th meeting to bring feedback back for 100 Great Road?
I'd be happy to go out with Amy and take a look.
That would be
Okay.
great.
Thank
And
Thank you, Andrew. So what we'll do is we will put you on as an administrative discussion for December 6th and carry on from there, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We have to keep moving on. Thank you for
Okay.
coming back. Thank you for coming back to us.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Hey, we're gonna go ahead to the 8 p.m. public hearing notice of
Sarah,
intent.
if I can, just one more thing. I know there's someone from here, from Electric, Light and Water. And I'm not
Okay.
sure if he thought he was here for Cobb's or if Justin's got something else. Or he's not paying attention, so you can move on.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. I was just sitting and listening, and whatever suggestions you guys might have, I can talk to Corey, bring it back, and other than that, I'm just here listening.
We already had the discussion on the CR and basically just waiting till after to the December 6th meeting after the next meeting.
Right, because Justin, both Kyle and Chase that were in attendance at that meeting are not on right now. So we would have asked them to kind of give us the update. So we're going to wait till the next meeting, and we recognize that you're meeting again on the 5th, which is the day before our next meeting on the 6th.
Sounds
Alrighty.
good. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. 8 p.m. notice of intent 32 Lake Warren Drive. No Mass DEP number U35-150. Repair and regrade eroding slope and reset granite steps. Who's here to chat?
I am. That's my proposal.
Good evening.
This is Bartlett Harvey. I'm on my wife's computer. Hello. I hope that this is a straightforward proposition. I have an eroding slope, and I wanted to stabilize it and make a usable flower bed out of it. That's the plan. There's a slope of about 5 or 6 feet down from the house down to the water. Everything, I mean, the house is mostly within the 50-foot setback that was built in the early 50s. So I'm just looking to stabilize the top and the bottom of the slope with a block retaining wall, and to put the granite stairs back where they belong so I can get from the upper level to the lower level. And put in the disturbed area, I'm going to put in native flowering plants.
Thank you for your plan, Bartlett. Do you happen to have a photograph of the existing conditions that you could share?
There was one in the application that I sent, in the paperwork that I filed. I don't know if Amy has those available or not.
That's going to take a minute.
Bartlett, what is your time frame? And if I heard you correctly, you're reinstalling something that had been there previously?
Yeah, there's a bunch of granite stairs, just granite blocks that have slipped down the slope. One of them is a foot out into the flat, and the rest of them are, a step or two below where they're supposed to be. The whole thing has just slipped down. There were, I believe, used utility poles as an ancient attempt to stabilize the slope. They are, one of them's gone. It just collapsed when we walked on it. And the other one is mostly still there, but it compresses to about 2/3 of its thickness when we step on it. You can see the granite block in there at the bottom there.
Will you need equipment?
Yeah, I'm sure that the guy will bring in a bobcat to do that.
back on your plan, did you reference erosion controls if you're going to bring in heavy equipment? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, those things usually are rubber tracked. I don't know how much damage they're going to do compared to what's already there. I mean, he will have probably a backhoe kind of shovel on it. Do trenches for the walls. But I imagine it's going to be a fairly limited area that he's going to be working in. I calculated about 380 square feet.
I think with its proximity to the water, we would ask to set up a site visit. Commissioners, What would you like to do?
Yeah, I guess a site visit would be appropriate. It seems so the steps are there. You're basically just putting them back where they were.
Correct.
That's that one that fell down that's sitting below is going to be brought up.
Right.
And then you're going to naturalize that area right below the chickens?
Yeah, what I'm thinking is where that drop off is. That's where the telephone pole was. Put a retaining wall there that sticks up, I don't know, maybe 6 inches above the current grade, so it'll be level between there and the bottom and the chicken coop. And then have about a 2-foot drop, and then another wall down roughly where the bottom utility pole is.
So I guess my 2 cents, Sarah, is that it seems like a good boundary is that telephone pole, or whatever, that kind of, in Amy's photo, that kind of separates everything as a limit of work.
Yeah, and I like the idea that we're stabilizing it and adding another level of terrace.
I'm not so sure we need a site visit. You can kind of see everything right here.
Okay.
If we have just silt barrier, like just below that telephone pole, and then have the work above that, I don't know. I think we're okay.
Okay. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
I would agree with Carl. I think we've got a pretty straightforward project here. We're stabilizing the slope and improving the steps, and I don't think a site visit would be necessary. We'll just put silt fencing and erosion control right below that telephone pole. And
Bartlett, can you go back and show us how the equipment will access the property, and if there's means to do so?
Yeah, if there's a gate on the right side, on the wood fence, there's a gate that's roughly even with the just below the chicken coop. And there's access along the side of the house. There's also on the extreme left side of the house, there's a fence that I've put in that's not shown. Then that we could take that down. That might be an easier access for them. But I'd rather have them go through the gate and the wood fence, because the wood fence is pretty close to falling down and it needs to be replaced.
So my suggestion with the silt fencing is that wherever your equipment is accessing, you would need your silt fencing to kind of wrap around to kind of marry them together, so that
Right.
If they have inclement weather and he comes down and he ruts things up, that if it's goes around the silt fencing, we might miss it. So you would want to tidy it up and bring the corner up and in based on the construction access.
I think that's perfectly doable. I mean,
And so just to reiterate, because I've not read the filing, there's no trees coming down?
no trees.
Amy, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I was out there, and have seen the site. It clearly needs attention. And as he pointed out in his waiver request, there is a little erosion in there. It's just kind of continuing to collapse, so needs attention.
And has anyone looked at the plantings or the offerings for the plantings?
Yeah, I did. It's I think that was on a separate. Yeah, it was on a separate plan, but it's a good mix of shrubs. native shrubs going in there.
Okay, so it'll be a good upgrade. Okay.
Yes.
So I was gonna suggest, I heard him mention that the wood fence might have to be replaced. I would suggest, if you're gonna even thinking about that, that maybe it all be done at the same time while you have the, I don't know.
You've paid for the filing.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, that if it's something you're gonna come back and do, I don't think it makes sense not to include it.
So add a note on the plan.
Yeah, so Bartlett, you don't have to do it, but if you close this and then you want to do it, you're gonna have to refile.
Okay,
So we meet again on the 6th, that it would allow you to just update. I think what you're hearing is that your plan has support.
yeah,
So you would add in kind of your erosion controls a little more, and then add to your narrative that you'd like to potentially replace the fence, and just let us know what you would be replacing it with.
okay.
That's up to you, though. That's
Yep,
just a
yeah, I mean, I
suggestion.
was thinking that he would take out the area around the gate and then we just replace it. It's a wood, there's posts sort of every 6 feet set in the ground, and then there's sort of picket things. That he would, we would replace the gate and whatever other part came down with it. So not the whole thing, but we'll look at that.
Okay. So is it your interest to, with the knowledge, knowing that we're going to meet on December 6th, to continue, or would you like for us to close tonight?
You can't close tonight.
You
There's no
can't,
DEP.
yeah, I need a
Oh, right, we don't have a number. Sorry.
So, I mean, I have no idea how long the DEP
Okay.
takes to produce a
Right.
number. So I have to continue it, but,
Yep.
I'll take
Okay.
that and that advice. And
Okay.
I mean, I have drawn the silt fence turning up a little bit, but I can just extend it so that it goes past the porch, because that's where the other gate is.
That would be great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
So also noted as 8 o'clock, continued public hearing, notice of intent, 43 Mattawanakee, DEP 2040972, modifications of a retaining wall and patio system.
Good evening again, Commissioners. This is Seth Donho with Dillis and Roy. You spoke with Ryan Proctor from my office at your last meeting. He has filled me in on much of your discussion, and we have since sent over a revised plan, which I believe addresses many of the items that you guys talked about. I'll just give you a real quick summary on this. So this is 43 Mattawanakee Trail. I'm here up tonight on behalf of the owner and applicant, Paul Brown. This is a removal of an existing lake wall that is damaged, and you spoke extensively about that. The applicant is proposing to install a deck in place of that, and that deck will be behind the closest extent of the existing lake wall. So the deck will be further from the lake than what's there right now. The area underneath the deck, it will be stabilized and it will be sloped. So that will result in protection of the shoreline as well as increased flood storage at the site. There were questions at the last meeting regarding the stabilization of that surface. Originally, it was proposed to utilize the stones from the existing wall due to their uniform shape. You would ask that we consider utilizing a larger 2 to 6 inch angular riprap there, and that is agreeable. We have updated our plans to include that on there. There was also a question of where the existing roof drains are going. The applicant was kind enough to excavate portions of those, and we have viewed those. They appear to be terminating in the upper patio area. So there's essentially 2 terraces to this. The upper one is in good shape. The lower one is the one that we are replacing, and the roof drains are infiltrating the upper area, which is removed from our work area.
Seth, I hate to interrupt you. Would you mind putting a plan up as you're telling us this? Because I
Yeah, I'd
wasn't
be happy to.
Yeah.
I wrongly assumed that you remembered this from your last discussions, but I know you have a lot before you. So this is the deck that is being replaced. This is the upper terraced area. We do have an existing conditions plan in our sheet. They're very similar because they have a very limited footprint to work with. There are cross sections for both existing and proposed. And what I'll really focus on is the proposed, as the existing is in poor shape. So the cross sections are on the side of the plan here, A, B, and C. And those show that we're going to remove the existing wall. The existing wall faces here, and we will be reinstalling a new deck surface in place of the stone terrace that's there now. And then underneath that will be a slope surface. And that's the area that we'll be protecting with riprap. So that will aid in both flood storage and permanent stabilization of that surface. We will be utilizing as much of the material that's removed to form that slope, and then we'll protect it with filter fabric and the riprap on top. The roof drains that were in question, there's a downspout on this side of the house. I trust you can see my cursor. There's a downspout on this side, and then there's a downspout over here. The applicant removed the patio blocks as far as he could go. And we took a look at the areas surrounding that. They were essentially backfilled in a granular material, and they convert to a perforated pipe. So they're infiltrating beneath that upper terraced area. And while the plan view doesn't do it justice, there's greater than a 6-foot elevation change from this lower terrace to the upper terrace in this area. And so that's a summary of the plan changes. If you guys have any questions on what we've resubmitted, I'd be happy to address those, or any other questions that may have come up since the last meeting.
Seth, have you been out on property?
No, I have only seen pictures at this time.
Okay. So having seen this property go through the building and then the failure, I believe that on the left side is a pipe that kind of still outfalled closer to the lake. And then I thought under existing conditions on the right side that we would have found a dry well. I think when we were on site, we thought that some of those gutters may have been, or the outfall of the gutters, sorry, may have been the reason for some of that failure because it wasn't treated properly. So I was surprised that under current conditions, those pipes and there was not more found in discovery. Like that was the reason for failure.
There was not, no.
Okay. So I guess I just don't understand how all that roof drainage is going to be infiltrated underneath the bricks that have already failed.
Well, the bricks that where they're infiltrating have not failed. Those ones are in fine shape. The issue
on
is
the right side as well. As you look in the middle of the pad, in the middle of there are 3. So the one in the middle then came down and there was a significant depression.
certainly
The water that
applicant-
goes down gradient of there.
The applicant certainly doesn't want to do this again. He did do his best effort. He actually removed many of the blocks in that area to chase these drains as far as he could go. And that was his synopsis of them. So obviously they've had some issues with either the block type or the backfill that was used in them, but it does not appear that the damage on the lower level was due to water infiltrating there. In fact, if he was building a new house with a new terraced area, I don't think under this day and age, it would be abnormal to put large infiltration areas underneath those actual terraces.
So under your riprap, did I hear you correctly that you're putting filter fabric underneath the riprap?
There is, yes.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
I didn't go to the site visit, but I was on there for the previous work. How many years ago was the previous work done?
I was told, I'm going to be guessing here, 6 or 7 years ago. So our office was not involved with this issue until very recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl, I think it was like 5, 6 is what they told us when we were on the property.
Yeah,
Your
that-
knowledge of the original filing is is
That's-
much more involved than mine.
That's awful. Can't even imagine having to do this again. I'd be out of my mind.
Yeah, this is not an elected improvement.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering-
this is dangerous for sure. It needs to be rectified.
I'm just.
There was a question of a building permit because the front wall exceeded the 4 feet minimum.
Yeah, if a building permit needs to be applied for, that as a condition within the order of conditions, they will fully adhere to that.
What about removal?
So
Because-
removal is,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm assuming the removal of the blocks or the material that can't be utilized to shore up the slope. Is that the concern?
I'm curious if the building inspector has to be involved because the structure is over, it wasn't permitted, so it's over the 4 feet.
I think that would be at his prerogative, and we can certainly, if that's a
Okay.
condition of moving forward with this portion of the project, the applicant will have to adhere to that.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just I have concerns about this site.
I have
Okay.
concerns because I think once again, there's a failure because I still come back to the original that there was supposed to be a drain, like a dry well, which I thought was being built, but it wasn't. So, oh. Andrew or Brian, have any questions? No.
Nothing.
Okay, what would we like to do? Do you have any other questions? Need any more information? What's the time frame for this, Seth?
Can't answer because obviously this is an unexpected event in their home improvements. I would imagine that they would like to take advantage of doing this while the lake is low and it's just simply easier to do a lot of this. So
Because I think that would be conditioned. It would have to be during low levels. It's not something that I think you could do in the spring, because when we were there, the water was lapping the bricks already.
yeah, I think that's a good protection for everybody involved.
Amy, questions?
My only question actually was for Seth. If the commission wants to close tonight, do you want to go ahead and close, or do you want to check in with the building department first and see if you have to make any changes?
No, as the footprint of where we have to work and where we're limited to work, it is what it is on this site. So if we have your blessing to do these improvements and fix this situation, the building permit process can complete itself outside of this process. I don't see anything that the building inspector is going to require that couldn't be addressed by this NOI.
Seth, quick question. Are there weep holes in this wall? Because there weren't any in the ones that were built.
So to me, it looks like, I don't know even what the original spec or the material is. It looks like it's like a techno block, like a stack block, probably with pins in it.
Right.
So to that nature, it probably has natural seep gaps between it, but I did not see any actual pipes for weepage in them.
And what if the same thing happens again?
I think the guy's going to be pretty disappointed.
Is there? It just seems seems very strange to me that this would degrade that quickly. Like there's not more going on there.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have any other questions or comments? Okay. Do we have a motion or opinion or?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 43 Mattawanakee Trail. I can't say it tonight. DEP file number 204-0972 there was a waiver for this, right? With associated waiver.
Second.
Oh, and just before we vote, what was the waiver justified by? Like, what was it public safety? What was the reasoning behind
Was that that question to me?
Yes.
So unfortunately, I was not the person that I'm a surrogate tonight for Mr. Proctor that was with you last time. So I cannot answer that at this time.
It was to repair an existing structure that was going to collapse into the lake.
It was for safety.
Yeah.
And all right. Okay.
So Brian, I think you seconded, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Roll call vote. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl,
Come over, guy.
Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The 8:15 and it's 8:34, continued public hearing notice of intent 35 Queen, Mass DEP 204-0973, U15-23-0, house demolition as required by building inspector, and this is a continued hearing. Who would like to speak to this?
Good evening, Nick Pollan from Goldsmith Press and Ringwell.
Okay, welcome back, Nick.
Hi, thanks. Just to recap, since the last meeting, we've had the 2 site walks. The good majority of the members showed up. On the evening walk, Matt Morrow was available to probe additional areas that were identified in the noon walk, and some flags were added, relocated slightly. We're still in the coordination of setting up the survey and the soil testing for the septic area. After those walks, knowing that it's an open area, I personally put in wooden bean poles at each of the wetland flags and reflagged each, just so as if we get into winter conditions, those flags will remain. No real update other than that. I can certainly talk about anything the commission would like or get out of their hair.
Nick, when will the updated flags be on the plan? Are they on already?
No, so I'm still coordinating survey, unfortunately. But the next time I'd like to come talk to you, it would be with a revised application showing the wetlands as well as the septic area, unless the commission feels they would need to see that line relative on a piece of paper.
I think that was the point. How many flags moved, Nick?
3, I think. I
Okay.
think there was 2 to the left of the pop-up trailer, or the trailer that was fully within the wetlands. Those actually moved further away from the house, so they were on the back side of the wetlands. It had no effect on a buffer zone or anything like that. And then there was one additional flag put in on the left-hand side, coming in on the existing gravel drive, just to show a general direction, if I remember correctly, Amy. That was
I thought as you walked in, it was instantly on the right.
There is one on either side of the driveway, one at the culvert that went under the driveway, Nick,
Yeah.
and then one up against the property line to show that the wetland turned away.
I'm thinking of the one past the culvert on the right.
Yes.
we put one right at the outlet of the culvert as well. So four new additional flags. Sorry.
As a safety item, Nick, was the well covered?
I believe so. Yes, I'd have to double check into that.
Okay, and is the well noted on that plan?
It will be when my office does a survey.
Okay. Can you just out of safety before we get into winter when we can't see that, just to make sure someone doesn't step in that if we do get snow cover?
Yep.
Okay. So are we hearing correctly that we'll probably just push to the December 6th when you can show your plan?
So I don't think that I'm going to have a survey by the December 6th meeting.
Okay.
What would be the direction of the commission? Would you like to have the revised application, or would you like to see the wetland line on a current existing conditions survey?
Commissioners, that's up to you.
I would like to see the wetland delineation personally in relationship to the existing house.
So those flags are available, and reinforced.
And how far away, if I might ask, is the closest point to the wetland from the existing house?
6 inches probably.
6 inches. Okay.
Probably.
It's a matter of
One
inches.
of the wetland lines comes up to the rear and runs along the rear of the house.
Okay.
Oh, is that was where the horsetail grass or what's the name of that grass?
Yeah, the echo suite and the horsetail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's more on the side, but
You and Amy, you reviewed that 6 inch margin? And
Yes.
it's not 7 inches? 5 inches?
it's basically almost right up against the foundation.
I think it's more like 0, Carl.
Zero, 0 inches. Okay, that's okay. That's kind of what I was thinking.
This was a true size.
No, when you demolish the house, I would like those corners of the house somehow marked so we know exactly where the other house was.
So
How do you
what
want
I'm
to do that,
proposing-
Carl?
I don't know, but I think it's important. If
Okay.
there's no house there, you know, what do we get to go by? other
Nick, what are
than-
your thoughts on that? How do you want to memorialize that?
Well, the process that we're proposing is to actually get a survey of the property with the current wetland lines.
Okay.
And that way we'll be able to survey the property and the limits of the existing house.
Okay.
Those will be an on-the-ground survey of the wetland lines relative to the existing structure, which we would want to go through the process with the commission to have rebuilt, which then requires another.
That's what I'm worried about, is knowing exactly where that footprint is once the house is gone.
Right.
That's
But I
a huge
think he can
concern
pick that
to
up.
me for the matter of inches.
So I guess I just want to be clear. We're not proposing to knock down this house before we amend this application to include the rebuilding of it and the construction or installation of a septic system.
Okay.
So once that work would be permitted and outlined, we'd certainly be willing and open to a condition of providing the commission with a foundation as built. It would be a slab on grade foundation as built to show them the limits of the reconstructed foundation relative to the existing structure now.
What,
I think what Carl's getting at is that we just need to have the existing structure memorialized on the plan as well.
I think that we need a plan that shows everything that's currently out there. Yes.
Right. Okay.
and
I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yes.
So what is your time frame for that, do you think?
I was actually going to request being continued into January, the second meeting, if available.
So
So
does
that
Commissioner-
plan,
would a commissioner like to talk about if there's snow cover and we need to re-verify any flags or lines?
That's a good point. Typically, we don't do site visits in the winter when there's existing snow on the ground.
Mhm.
It's been a long-standing policy of the board, so it might be a little tricky if we do push things out that far. But understandably, it'll take a while to get everything together.
would you need another site walk based on no activity occurring at the property?
Once you have the new flags on the plan, yeah. So those 4 flags, once they're on a plan, then there may be commissioners that either were on the morning visit or the evening visit would want to be able to see the proximity of those flags.
You haven't seen a survey of any of the flags yet.
Right.
Well, what kind of septic system is currently there?
Cesspool.
Cesspool, so you gotta build a regular septic system.
There's options, yes.
Oh, okay, well, I'm just asking. 'Cause,
Yep.
We're,
So I think that we're on the path of, we as a commission can't do much right now, Nick, until you bring back to us what you're promising. We just need to know how far out you want to have us extend.
Do you want to have him come back in? I don't know if he's even got it ready yet, December 6th with the wetland survey. So that I can get, yeah, you're not gonna have it done. All right.
Okay. So
It
the
would-
next after that is the 20th, December 20th.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll put a little place card holder.
Yep.
It might be at the end of that meeting in case you have to wave off and can't come in.
Yep, that's fine.
So we would extend you to December 20th.
Very good.
With a time to be determined later.
Last, I think I just heard.
It
We
depends.
don't know what time that's going to be though. So,
Fair enough.
okay. All right. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry, just 1 second. I'm losing track. I'm not sure all the people are here. There may be a butter. I'm not sure.
Sorry. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to 35 Queen?
There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the
All
holiday.
right. Thank you. You as well. Okay, moving on to another 8:30. This is a continued public hearing, notice of intent 1 and 2, Monarch Drive, Mass DEP 204-0974. Development of industrial building and associated work. Project is in a priority habitat area and conservation restriction area. So welcome back. I see that Sue is here. Is there anyone else here for this as well?
And actually, I will say that this was closed, so there's really no discussion going
Right.
on other than voting on the order of conditions or
Yep.
going along those lines.
Okay, so I see that Brian has joined us as well. The commission has been sent a rather comprehensive and exhaustive list of special order of conditions. Thank you, Amy, for thoroughness and also working with Sue and Brian and others as well. Any commissioners have any questions on this 5-6 page document? I was encouraged to read at the very end in terms of the mentions of in perpetuity, how that we're carrying on, hopefully the work that you all have done now.
So, hey, I'm sorry, Sarah, I wasn't there for the last hearing. I was there for the site walk. What was the decision made on the forested land?
Sue, do you want to jump in?
Oh, so you're on mute.
Or Brian?
Sue, you're still muted.
All right, Amy or Brian take over and answer Carl's question.
I'm actually not sure what you mean by the forested lands.
Right, the lands that had all those nice, big, hefty assortment of different multiple species of trees. That particular forested land, which I thought was very unique to the town of Littleton.
I'm not sure, Carl, hi Carl, if you're
Hello.
referring to the kind of the east side where the utility easement cuts through, most of which is in the CR.
It's the one that borders Robinson Road.
Borders
Oh,
with.
no.
Project.
No, wrong project, Carl. We're talking about Monarch.
Oh, wrong project. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I was gonna say,
I was curious what big trees you were thinking of, but no, this is Monarch 1 and 2.
Oh,
So
okay.
Brian's here because of we have some special friends
I
that
saw
met
great-
in there.
I saw a great road on the agenda. I was,
No,
That's
no,
next.
sorry. This is
And now they
Monarch.
have a heads up of what's coming their
well,
way.
gee, it was the very similar description. I'm sorry.
most
No,
of the trees
sorry.
on this site are actually not exactly exemplary. There, it was stripped in the 50s or 60s, and it's mostly even aged pine with a few wolf trees here and there on the wall corners, but there's
Yeah.
not a lot of timber out there that's exemplary. So I'm
Yeah.
glad.
No, yeah, okay. So Amy, as a point of order, we had closed, we took some time to develop the order of conditions. What do you need from us now? To accept them as written?
You just need to vote up or down to issue an order of conditions and the waivers with the special conditions as reviewed on this document.
Which we discussed before and have been sent out to everyone.
So
Any of the commission- Yep.
your
Any
usual
of the
vote
commission-
just got spread out over 2 weeks.
Any of the commissioners have any questions on these? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we issue the order of conditions for 1 and 2 Monarch Drive, Mass DEP file number 204-0974, with waiver.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl,
Cal Melber guy.
and myself, I. It's unanimous.
And I am-
apologize.
We're right up against the 21 day to issue this, so I'm actually going to send out the signature page tonight. Hopefully for the 4 of you to sign.
Yep. So commissioners need to get that definitely done by tomorrow morning. Okay.
Second it comes. Boom.
Okay. Thank you, Sue and Brian, for joining us. Okay.
And thank you to the commissioners and particularly Amy for all the, it was a fairly complicated order, so we appreciate all the effort that went into it.
Hopefully you can cut and paste all the good work for future projects.
I keep it all.
Thanks, Brian. Good to see you.
Likewise, Carl.
All right, we're moving on to the 8:45 continued public hearing notice of intent. 265, 277, 287, 289 Great Road and 25 Robinson Road.
Wow.
We do not have a DEP number, and I'm not going to read all the U numbers. Redevelopment of 1 residential and 4 commercial properties into a commercial plaza. Who would like to speak to this evening?
Good evening, Madam Chair. This is Sean Malone from Oak Consulting Group representing the applicant.
Thank you, Sean.
And if I may, I'd like to just kick off a little bit, kind of what's transpired since our last meeting, some of the additional information we've provided. Also, Steve from Goddard Consulting is with us tonight to talk a little bit about the wildlife habitat. And if the commission desires, I'm the civil engineer on the project. I can talk about the stormwater if we need to get into that at all. But just to start off, we had a site.
Sean, sorry to interrupt. Is there someone in your team that would like to put up a plan with a shared screen?
Sure. Yes, I can do that. And let me just see here. We'll put on this one here. All right. So I'm just going to begin with this plan here. So since our last meeting, we had a site walk with the commission to take a look at the jurisdictional area. And again, just to bring everybody up to speed, I'm sure everyone is, but we're talking about this area in the back here, which is an ILSF, isolated land subject to flooding that will be impacted with the project. From that site visit, we took away a few things. One of those was a request of all the existing trees on the site be surveyed. That has been completed. That's what's shown on this plan here, and I can get into that a little bit more. And a wildlife evaluation be completed. That has also been done and submitted to the commission, and hence Steve is here to talk about that a little bit. But just to touch on the trees a little bit. So we surveyed all the trees on the site here, and what's shown in blue is the area captured with the 7-inch storm ILSF, and then in the green is the 1-year storm ILSF. And on site, there's a total of 144 trees. We're proposing that 30 trees be removed within the 1-year ILSF and another 28 in the 7-inch. Of those 144, we will be saving approximately 31 and then planting an additional 133 deciduous and 165 evergreen trees. So when looking at the tree removal, we have better than a 2-to-1 replacement mitigation, if you would. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was the stormwater. I have talked to Maren Toonhill, the planning board today, just to confirm that Green International has begun their peer review of the site, and the stormwater is a component of that. So that is underway. We're hoping to get comments from them in the next couple of weeks. But just wanted to confirm with the commission that that is all being reviewed. If there aren't any specific questions for me right now, I'd like to ask Steve to just talk about his wildlife evaluation, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, and you did a good job covering the tree inventory that we did, so I was going to cover that, so that's good. But yeah, we inventoried all the trees. There's a good mix of tree species out there, age classes. It's a decent patch of trees that we all kind of talked about when we were out in the field. But overall, habitat-wise, the overall patch of habitat here is relatively small. It's essentially a forested upland habitat with a small component of an isolated wetland in kind of the upper northern kind of corner of the lowest point of the ILSF. There's a good variety of trees. They do provide, good shade and cover. Understory is sparse to dense, pretty low diversity in the understory layers and even the ground cover layers. A lot of it's invasive, relatively low wildlife habitat value for forage. It does provide some cover. The degree of fragmentation in the habitat, just around the site kind of limits the potential use of this site by, a lot of larger mammal species, the small isolated nature of the patch too, and some of the habitat features that are lacking kind of limit its use for reptiles and amphibians as well. There's not really a lot of hydrology in this isolated land subject to flooding to provide, good breeding habitat for amphibians and whatnot. Like I mentioned, connectivity is fairly low. The area surrounded by development, there's a lot of invasives. What could use this site, it is useful. Anything that's vegetated and has some trees is useful for something. A lot of urban adapted species, we saw them out there, we'd expect them, they certainly would use this site. They would take advantage of the development areas around, things that are tolerant of humans and disturbance and that type of stuff. We saw evidence of raccoons and possums. I'm assuming there's skunks out there and that type of stuff. Those kind of that level of mesopredator, and smaller mammals, rodents would be, probably relatively lacking out there. We didn't see a lot of evidence of that. Not a lot of high quality coarse woody debris cover out there. Bird species, nothing overly unique. There's trees, they do provide forage and shelter and cover for, passerine birds. And, a lot of the stuff we saw was the more common, blue jays, American crows, chickadees, titmice, nuthatches, saw lots of those out there. That type of stuff we would expect. And that's kind of what we saw when we were out doing the habitat assessment. But overall, it's nothing unique. It is habitat for, more common stuff. I think everybody acknowledges that. We took some of your concerns and the field walk and tried to redesign the plan a little bit to save as many trees out there as we could. I think the original plan called for removal of most of the trees on the site. I forgot what percentage we're saving at this point, but we went through a couple design iterations since the field walk and, reduced the number of trees being cut a couple times to the plan that you see now. So we're keeping a lot of the larger trees that are out there, as many as we can, and supplementing anything that we cut with some significant plantings. As Sean mentioned, 2-to-1, a lot of native species, which could really enhance the shrub areas. A lot of trees will go in. It'll take them some time, but they'll eventually become tree height again and provide those same lost habitat functions and provide a pretty robust shrub cover layer, forage habitat, for the mammals and stuff that use the area now. So in a relatively short amount of time, that habitat could considerably be enhanced by, dense native shrub plantings that are, have more variety and more wildlife habitat value than a lot of the invasive species that are out there right now. That's kind of the habitat in a nutshell. And we also modified the fence. I know that was one of the concerns on the field walk about potential the fence not being elevated and blocking, anything that could, mammals, something on the ground that would want to get into the site. So we made notation that the fence would be elevated 6 inches above grade. So smaller species could pass below and into these, forested areas in the back that'll still exist and provide that kind of natural buffer area, on the rear of the development.
May I ask, when we're talking about the fence, that was of concern when we were there. Can you show where it starts and stops? Because that's where the question was.
Yes. Let me get my overall plan to demonstrate that a little bit. So the fence starts here down at the proposed bank. It travels along the berm that the planning board wants along Robinson Road, and then travels along this boundary line. I think we're about 6 feet off the boundary line for this residential abutter. And one of the things with the fence is it's specifically required in the zoning. And so that's why we need to leave it. And that's why we're raising, as Steve mentioned, we're raising it a minimum of 6 inches off the ground to allow some pass through underneath it.
Because I think it was expressed that, correct me if I'm wrong, that when we were there, we were told that the fence was going to stop short of where the resource area was. So you're saying it's going to carry all the way down the road?
That's right, because and we looked at that, and with the zoning, the way that it is we really need to carry that through. And then there's also some security and just kind of be able to keep our stuff on our site type of, there's going to be maybe some trash blowing or headlights and things like that. So we want to be able to contain that all on our site and be able to police that ourselves. But when we're talking about up in this corner, these symbols right here that are kind of have the lines, the stickly lines here, these are all the existing trees that Steve mentioned that we've modified the design to retain, and then supplementing that with some evergreens, other deciduous to, one, enhance the buffer, but I think it can still add to the habitat, make it a little better than what's there now with the invasives and things.
Are the
of that
large
nature.
trees that are remaining, are they marked
These ones here.
on site? Are they marked on site?
Oh, no, we haven't had any of that marked yet.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to that level. If that's something that the commission would like to see done, we could ask the surveyors to do that.
Yep, I know there were some pretty specific trees that, especially where all the birds were migrating that day. I think that was the one profound thing that I saw that day was the diversity of the birds that were there at that point. I did note that the amount of trash that was on that site. So in terms of dumpsters that are anywhere proposed on this would have to be hooded and lidded and make sure that trash is not going to go in to this resource area.
Yes, and they will have, as in addition to the hoods and lids, a full enclosure around the dumpster as well. A fenced enclosure.
So I have a question. So we show that area adjacent to Robinson Road. Yeah, that area. Now is that embankment is currently existing? Move the cursor to the right. Up, back up.
Up this way.
Yeah. That triangle kind of area shown.
Mhm.
That embankment is existing around that. We show the contour lines.
No, right now the existing house is right in this location. You can see it faintly on this plan. So this is where the house is. So the driveway's here. There's a little bit of lawn area around the back of it, and then the grade falls down into the ILS area with the vegetation and whatnot. So there
Yeah,
right now is
Carl,
not a
that's the
rise.
area
There's
that
not a stream
everything's
bank.
coming out.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I was addressing Carl. Yeah, Carl, that's the area that everything's getting scraped out.
Everything's
Well,
getting, is
we-
it going to be used as a retention area or what?
We are preserving the large trees on the boundary as well as some of these in the middle of the ILSF area, excuse me. Those will be retained, but a lot of that, yeah, that understory vegetation, the invasives, all that will be taken out and replanted.
Is the isolated land subject to flooding going to be used at all?
Yes, yes. So the isolated land subject to flooding. Let me go to. I think this plan might show it a little better. Yeah. So the 7-inch storm is bounded in this blue here, existing. So that's all the area that's being used. We'll be reusing all this area in here, and then supplementing that storage with underground storage infiltration on the site, in addition to the required recharge.
So is your septic all going to be planned to go to the new septic?
Yes, yes. So no septic on site. Everything's going to be going to the new sewer system.
Okay. So I don't know, I guess when I look at this from a tree perspective, I mean, it seems like it's demolished, the tree area. I mean, the stuff you're going to plant is going to take 30 years to get to what we currently have now. That forested area, I disagree with the habitat values. For our town, the diversity of that forested area to me was just incredibly unique. We don't see diversity like that. Even if it's a small patch, we don't see that kind of diversity around. We just don't. So it's important to me, that area. And like Sarah said, I know you said it's just used by common birds, but there was just a hell of a lot of bird use going on in there.
I think I'm concerned with the temperature rise and just the tree cover and shade that those trees offer to that area as well. I mean, once it's gone, it's gone.
It's just I have a hard time getting over the diversity aspect of it.
So
Sarah.
I would ask, in order for,
I would often offer this, Madam Chair. I mean, yes, there's going to be a time when the new trees and growth are taking up, but longer term, this, I think, more specific in targeted planting with diversification that's being proposed here could be a longer term benefit to this area. And all the invasives would be removed.
Well,
how do you define longer term, sir?
The next 50 years, 60 years.
Hopefully we'll still have birds.
Well, agreed.
That's a long vision for us.
We're trying to keep some habitat while we are still alive.
Well,
I would like to see, but I don't think it, I mean, I would just like to see in that area, the trees that you're saving, and just throw ribbons around them. You don't have to have an engineer go out and do that. But I think that I would like to go through that exercise to be able to see what is staying.
Okay, sure.
I mean, I have a question to that end. So how did you make the determine which trees could be saved and which trees needed to be removed?
Well, I mean, there's some fundamental needs of the development that needs this development to be able to function and be real. And then beyond that, we can sculpt where we're grading and tweak some things, shift some things around to save trees that are in the area.
So the decision was based, to answer your question, Brian, it was based on the developer's needs, not on the needs of the habitat.
Right.
That's the answer.
Of course. I mean, let's be
see
real.
this to me, well, given, Sarah, I agree,
Right.
but
We're stating the obvious for those people that can listen to Zoom at some other time. Correct.
correct.
All right, where would we like to go? Do any of the commissioners have any specific questions in terms of grading?
I think I stated my case.
So just one quick thing, out of the existing trees that are on site, what percentage are being kept versus removed?
Well, I think what you said, 144 trees, but I was unclear if the 144 are on the whole property or in the area that we are looking at.
That was the entire property.
Okay, so the more question I would ask, which I think Andrew would like to know, is of the area in our jurisdiction, of the areas of our concern, what percent is being removed?
Yeah. And
regardless of what's being added in, I think we all want to know what's being removed.
Yep. I understand you. I don't have that offhand, but I will certainly get that.
I think it's a fairly easy calculation that we can count and see how many are within the ILSIF and which are out and how many are staying and how many are going. I think we even have it down to species level when we have the point.
Yeah.
So
I know I would be very interested to see that.
That would be very helpful.
One more question. Have you given any consideration to long-term control of invasives? I'm concerned that in doing all of this grading, the invasives are going to come back with a vengeance after they're cleared out of there.
Not specifically, but that's something that we can come back and think about and talk a little bit more about that at our next meeting. But no, we don't have anything specific. There's general protocols that we typically use, and when removing soils and having new soils come in, and the seed and weed percentages, things like that. But we'll take a look at that and try to get back to you at something more specific.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian, you can condition that too.
Okay.
For monitoring. Okay.
So Sarah, I just want to get back to your point. So the point was that this is a developer's needs to do this, but is the developer's needs to have 5 buildings on the site? I think it gets back to, to me, I look at this site, I see it fully developed. I mean, almost, pretty damn close up to the boundary.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the isolated land subject to flooding, it would be, completely developed.
Right. I look at temperature change by taking that cover out, and with the new plantings, how are we going to hydrate them if we go through additional droughts? And as Brian was saying, that's luxury for invasives to just jump right back in. So, but I want to make sure that what we're planting and the work that we're doing is going to be sustainable to that site as well. Okay, we're going to keep moving on. Did anyone else have any other questions? I would ask that, so we meet again on the 6th. If by chance you all have the trees flagged or other things, I know that I would like to see that prior to the next meeting on the 6th. If you have that done, just let Amy know and she could let us know. And if you could let us know now or later if we have the ability to have access to the site, to that particular area as well, or if we need to wait and conduct another site walk altogether.
Yes, absolutely. Once we get those flagged, we'll let Amy know, as you said, and I'll confirm with the bank that you can go on site as needed. I do need to confirm that with the bank.
Yep, no, that's fine. Understood. Okay. We appreciate you coming in and thank you. And we look for your additional data on your inventory as well.
So December 6th, is that what we're
Correct.
looking at?
Yep, and
Okay.
Amy will let you know time to be determined.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much all and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good
everyone.
holiday. Okay. Now the 9 o'clock, which are continued requests for certificates of compliance. Amy, we've got some that have lines through, some that are still there. Are any of these on for us to address presently?
So what I would say is that K Phase 2, which is 1, 3, and 5 Douglas, are all set. All the owners have signed in there, and Brian Goudreau redid the plans. There was some stuff that was missing, and I think there was maybe just one deck that needed a minor project approval that got issued. That's 204-869. And for 204-870, which is K Phase 4, which is Douglas 13, 14, and 15, same story. Fur Lane is not ready yet.
Okay. So if what I'm hearing, we can take one motion for Phase 2 and a separate motion for Phase 4, or would you like 6 separate motions?
You can just make, I think, well, I guess two separate motions, one for 869 and one for 870.
Yes, I would rather keep them
Yeah.
separated. So is there anyone that would like to make 2 separate motions, one at a time? Don't all jump in.
I'll make a motion that we issue certificates of compliance for Phase 1.
Nope.
Oh,
Phase 2.
Sorry, I'm not following along here.
Come on.
Phase 2, which would include.
Oh, hi, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
He showed up out of the crowd.
Good evening.
All right, let's start again. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for Phase 2 of K, Mass DEP file number 204-869, 1 Douglas.
Good enough. Good enough.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
I'll let you stop there.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call
I think
vote.
Carl got that one.
Give it, no, I'll give it up this time.
Brian is the second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl.
Carl Malberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
All right, thank you for that. And we are talking about Phase 4. Does anyone like to make a motion for that? Let's try someone new.
But he's got it down pat.
I will make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for Phase 4, Mass DEP file number 204-0870.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl.
Carl Malberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Fantastic. Kyle, while you're here, before we forget, next Monday at noon, if you're available, that is at number 6 Spec Pond Road. So you have Stoneyard, and then where all the landscapers have all their equipment and stockpiles. If you would like to join us.
I should be able to make that at noon.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Perfect. So Brian and I will meet you there. It is an active site, so you can get muddy. Okay. All right. I think we have cleared through administrative discussions, unless there's something else that I have missed.
And just to reiterate, the 107 Mattawanna, he did ask to be continued.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else? Besides
No SRP.
Yeah, I missed everything. Can you, go through it? Sorry.
We'll send
Pretty
you the
funny.
Zoom link.
He's a funny guy.
Oh, we did volunteer you though for a committee, so sorry.
That checks out. So you get for showing up late, I guess.
All right, so one site walk and then we will all enjoy Thanksgiving. And
Nope, the
then,
OSRP committee.
that's gonna be Kyle's.
Can somebody please define OSRP?
Nah.
Open space and recreation plan.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. Andrew's elected.
So yeah, I mean, you know it.
We're gonna talk more about it at the next meeting now that people can digest it.
They want to get going on getting this committee set. So if somebody really wants to do it,
Yes,
that would be great.
for sure.
I was gonna say I have in the past. Ooh, hummingbird! I have in the past done it. I'd be more than happy to handle it for the board going forward, if nobody else is interested. But
Are you on the ag committee?
Andrew, is there a second?
oh, I don't know who's going to be representing it actually from the AgCom. We haven't met recently to discuss it, but hopefully there's somebody.
Somebody else.
I nominate Andrew.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. All right.
So was that was the committee that I was
Yep.
recommending for them? Not.
You're still on the Cobb CR.
That's where I was gonna go with that.
Yep. Okay, so if we have no other business, it's 9:21. Would someone like to?
I did just want to check in with you on one more thing with the rest of these or a bunch of these other certificates of compliance at Durkee and Kay from people who, as far as I know, are in compliance and just haven't heard from them on that waiver thing. Any thoughts on how you want to proceed on that? Not issue a certificate of compliance until they actually do something? Sign their little form, or any thoughts on that?
Was enforcement order discussed at one point? No.
There's some other houses
Okay.
that I definitely need to talk to them about, but there's at least a handful where they have no issues. They just have not signed. I sent them a copy of their conditions, and actually Dave Guthrie sent them a copy of the order conditions. They just haven't signed the form, but they are in compliance anyway. I was thinking if you're amenable, I could get those certificates of compliance lined up for them for the next one, and which would be going to Dave Guthrie for a recording, but I would take one more opportunity to send that certificate of compliance to those owners with a reminder that they have responsibilities. I don't know how far you want to push it.
Try one more time.
All right. I'll send out more letters. Or make Dave Guthrie send out more letters.
Anyone have anything else?
I've been notified it's snowing outside, so happy winter.
Gotta go.
All right. 9:22. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?